Nobody in Millwall Town talked about the well. That was the first thing Marcus noticed when he arrived. Not the crooked church steeple or the roads that seemed to loop back on themselves no matter which direction you drove. It was the well, sitting dead center in the town square, ringed with stones so old they'd turned black, and the way every single person walked around it without looking at it. Like it wasn't there. Like they'd trained themselves not to see it. Marcus was a journalist. He noticed things people didn't want him to notice. He'd come to Millwall Town chasing a story about missing persons. 7 in 3 years. All from the same radius of 20 miles. The police reports were thin, almost lazy. No leads. No suspects. Cases closed before they were ever really opened. His editor thought he was wasting his time on a dead end. Marcus had learned over 15 years that dead ends were usually where the bodies were buried. He checked into the only guest house in town, run by a woman named Mrs. Calloway who smiled too wide and asked too many questions about how long he was planning to stay. He told her a week. She stopped smiling at that. His room smelled like damp earth, and something underneath it he couldn't name. He opened the window and looked out at the town square. The well stared back at him. He told himself he'd start with the locals. Buy a drink, ask some gentle questions, ease his way in. That was the plan. The plan lasted until 2 a.m. when he woke to the sound of someone whispering directly outside his window. He was on the second floor. He lay still and listened. It wasn't words exactly, more like the rhythm of words, the rise and fall of voice. Just below the frequency, he could properly hear. He moved to the window and looked out. The square was empty. The well sat in the darkness, patient and silent. But the whispering was coming from it. He told himself it was pipes. Old buildings, old plumbing, sound traveling in strange ways through stone and wood. He went back to bed. He did not sleep again until dawn. In the morning, he found a woman sitting on a bench across from the well, the only person in the square who wasn't actively avoiding it. She was old, 70 at least, with white hair and eyes that had gone the pale gray of old ice. She was watching the well the way you'd watch something you were afraid to look away from. Marcus sat beside her. Her name was Ruth. She'd come to Millwall Town 40 years ago following a husband who had since died and somehow never left. She said it in a way that made leaving sound less like a choice than a physical impossibility. He asked her about the well. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "It was here before the town. The town was built around it. Not near it, not beside it. Around it, like a frame around a hole." He asked what was in it. She looked at him for the first time. Her pale eyes were very steady. She said, "Whatever you've lost. Whatever you want back badly enough to do something stupid." He asked her what she'd lost. She looked back at the well. She said, "My son. He was 4 years old. He drowned in the river outside town the first winter we were here. And when I found the well, someone told me if you dropped something into it, something that belonged to the person, it would bring them back." Marcus felt the hair on his arms rise. He asked if she'd done it. She said, "I dropped in his shoe, his little left shoe, red with a white stripe. He waited." She said, "Something came back. It had his face. It had his voice. For about 3 days, I believed it completely. Then I noticed it didn't blink. And it was always in the room before I got there, like it already knew where I was going. And one night, I woke up and was standing over my bed, just watching me, and I absolutely knew that whatever was wearing my son's face had never been my son at all." Marcus asked what happened to it. She said, "It went back to the well. They always go back eventually, but they take something with them when they go." He asked what it took from her. She put her hand over her chest. She said, "I don't feel fear anymore. I haven't felt it in 40 years. People think that sounds like a blessing. It isn't. Fear is the thing that keeps you from walking toward danger. Without it, I just walk toward everything, and one day, soon I'm going to walk somewhere I can't come back from, and I won't even know to be afraid." She stood up and walked away without saying goodbye. Marcus sat alone in the square and stared at the well for a long time. He should have left that afternoon. He knew it the same way you know a tooth is going to need pulling, something deep and bodily below the level of thought. He packed his bag. He carried it downstairs. He told Mrs. Calloway he was checking out early. She asked if he'd been to see the well yet. He said no. She smiled her too wide smile and said, "Most people can't leave without seeing it up close. Something about it draws you in. You should go look before you go. Just a look. He left without looking. He got in his car. He drove out of town. The road looped back. He tried 4 times, for different directions. The road always curved, always brought him back to the same junction at the edge of the square, the well visible between the buildings, watching. On the 5th loop, he stopped the car and sat with his hands on the wheel. He thought about the 7 missing persons. He thought about Mrs. Calloway's smile. He thought about Ruth's chest where her fear used to be. He got out of the car and walked to the well. Up close, it was larger than it looked. The stones were carved with something that might have been language once, worn down to abstract grooves by centuries of weather. The inside was pure black, not dark, black. The difference between an absence of light and a presence of something else. He leaned over the edge. The whisperings started immediately. Closer now, still just below comprehension, but warmer, almost familiar, like hearing your own name in a crowd and not being sure if someone called it or you imagined it. He thought about his daughter, Lily, 6 years old. She died 2 years ago. Meningitis, 4 days from first symptom to gone. The kind of speed that felt like the universe playing a cruel trick. He'd thrown himself into work since then. His editor thought he was dedicated. He was just running. He understood now why the town existed, why it was built here, why people came. He reached into his pocket. He had her photo in his wallet, a small printed one he carried everywhere. He took it out and held it over the dark. Ruth's voice came back to him. Whatever was wearing my son's face had never been my son at all. His hand was shaking. He stood there for a long time. Then he dropped the photo in. 3 days later, Marcus was still in Millwall Town. He didn't know that, though. That was the thing about what the well did. It didn't take you all at once. It hollowed you out slowly, room by room, like a house being emptied of furniture. First it took his sense of time, then his memory of why he'd come. By the 2nd day, he couldn't remember his editor's name. By the 3rd, he couldn't remember his daughter's face, only that he'd had one, a faint impression like a word on the tip of your tongue that never comes. He was sitting in the town square when it happened completely. He felt it go, a soft pull in the center of his chest, painless, almost gentle, like a thread being drawn through fabric. Everything that had made him Marcus, the grief, the drive, the 15 years of instinct, the memory of Lily's laugh, the way she said daddy like it had 3 syllables, pulled loose and dropped away. He sat for a moment in the sudden quiet of himself. Then he stood up. He walked to the well. He didn't know why. His legs just carried him there the way legs carry you to the kitchen in the night without you deciding to go. He looked down into the black. Something looked back up. It had Lily's face. It had her eyes exactly. That particular shade of brown he would have recognized anywhere, except he didn't recognize it anymore, because the part of him that loved her was already gone. He looked at it the way you'd look at a stranger's child. Neutral, mild, faintly curious. It reached up. He took its hand, and that was it. No sound, no struggle. Just Marcus stepping up onto the stone rim of the well, and then stepping off the other side, down into the dark, the black closing over him like water, like sleep, like forgetting. In the guest house, Mrs. Calloway packed his bag neatly and stored it in the back room with the others. 7 bags, all different sizes, all unclaimed. She went back to the front desk and turned the vacancy sign on, and waited for the next one.